Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview. A first look then at what is on the front pages. Time to see what is making the headlines with the Daily Mail's consultant editor, Andrew Pearce, and the broadcaster and former MP, Anna Soubry. Great to see both of you staying with us until just before midnight. So, front pages then. Let's start with the Financial Times, reporting that in cooperation with the Bank of England, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak will announce a package of measures tomorrow aimed at curbing inflation and averting a cost of living crisis. The Telegraph describes Mr Sunak as splashing out on the multi-billion-pound package. And the Daily Mail said that the heat is now on the Chancellor, with bills to rise by £650. Millions of families to receive cuts in council tax. That's according to The Times. The Yorkshire Post, meanwhile, quotes a minister from Huddersfield who calls the government's levelling up proposals a master plan to radically improve the UK. But the Eye speaks to, the Eye speaks to sources who believe it hasn't been properly funded and lacks ambition. The Guardian has word of 3 more Conservative MPs submitting letters of no confidence in the Prime Minister. The Metro proclaims Putin gives Boris a buzz, remarking on the phone call held between the two leaders and the fact RAF jets were scrambled today to intercept Russian military aircraft in UK airspace. The Express follows suit, stating RAF jets scrambled to nudge out Russian bombers and warning Mr Putin against taking what he calls a tragic gamble. While the Star has President Putin sending extra troops to Russia in what the Star describes as squeaky bomb time. Well, a reminder that by scanning the QR code that you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us and listen to our guests. So let's bring them in. Andrew Pearce and Anna Soubry, welcome to both of you. Big day tomorrow, Anna. Daily Mail and a number of the newspapers reflecting on energy bills due to go up. Explain what happens and what the issue is.
So the cap is coming off, and it means that around about April, then energy bills are going to absolutely go through the roof. They're going to soar. They're going to go up, doubling to 500. The Daily Mail says £650. And that obviously is an awful lot of money at a time when we know that inflation is set to go up to 7%. We know that, of course, this national insurance increase is coming in as well. So it's going to be really tough on working families. And so Rishi Sunak's big moment is coming. I think it's a real test for him. It's going to be, we're going to see, is Rishi Sunak going to do what he did with the furlough scheme and actually put out a real helping hand to people? So it's dominating, I think, fair to say, all the front pages. You've got it there in the FT. And they're talking in the FT about this sort of the Bank of England putting up interest rates as well, going up from 0.25% to 0.05%. So there's a rise there. And as I say, it's on all the papers and it's going to be hard for families. And it's going to be a real test, I think, of whether Rishi Sunak can come up with something that pleases members of the public, frankly, ordinary folk, and therefore pleases MPs, increasing his threat to Boris Johnson, and whether he actually is seen as a credible alternative to him. But mostly, and more importantly, for really frankly, for ordinary folk, is what does this mean for their energy bills? And there will be a bit of a row about it, but something's going to happen because this is a serious, really going to hit people's pockets hard, this one.
Yes, and the FT, as you said, focusing on actually increasing interest rates to reduce inflation, something that in the past, you'd have massively high interest rates, but clearly the mood's not there yet. A range of things have been mooted, haven't they, for the government to tackle this, Andrew? What are the ideas coalescing around in the papers? What are we likely to hear?
Well, one idea is that the Treasury provide loans to the energy companies who will then pass it on immediately to consumers in a rebate on their energy bills, a cut in their energy bills. The government will claw that money back at some point when the energy price stabilises. Russia's gas prices have gone through the roof for a number of factors, coming out of COVID all around the world. Also, the fun and games that Putin is playing with the gas price as well. And they're also talking about a cut in council tax for poorer families. That's something we hadn't heard of until the last 24 hours. That's quite interesting. That would help. That would be aimed particularly at poorer families. And there's still, of course, the idea of will they cut the VAT on fuel bills? Now, on domestic bills, that's 5%. They can do that now because we've left the European Union. But VAT on commercial fuel bills is often as high as 20%. Now, that will often be passed on to the customer in whatever form, which is going to add to inflationary pressures. So we wonder whether the Chancellor will look at that. He's going to make a statement in the Commons tomorrow. There'll also be a televised press conference as well. And Anna's right to raise about what this does to Rishi Sunak's standing, because polls suggest he's the most popular politician in Britain today. But if you look at the Conservative Home League table, which is what Tory party members think, he's been falling down and down and down, which will concern him because there could be a Conservative leadership contest within the next 6 months to a year. Who knows? And he was seen as the front runner. And of course, it was easy to be popular when he was giving money away through the furlough scheme. Now the cost of living crisis is kicking in. He's not as popular. So this is a very big political test for him. But the real test is what he does for families who, for no fault of their own, are going to find their electric and gas bills going up to nearly £2,000 a year, a rise of £650, which is too much. It's eye-watering, and it will put families in real fuel poverty. There'll be families choosing between feeding themselves and whether they can afford to turn the gas on, which is why the Chancellor's got to come up with something pretty good tomorrow.
And suggestions of years of high gas prices, which is part of the issue, especially with the Ukraine-Russia issue on the back burner as well. But the other context of this is the levelling up agenda. Yorkshire Post master plan to radically improve UK. The levelling up papers pledges on mayors and inequality, but doubts over funding. Is there a thumbs up at least from the Yorkshire Post for this? And what do you make of what you heard today, Anna?
Yeah, I mean, as you'd expect, because it's the Yorkshire Post, then there is a gentle welcoming of what Michael Gove has set out. But I think there's also within the Yorkshire Post, and obviously you see it in the Eye, I think it is in a number of other papers, you'll see that the real concern is actually there is no new money at all. So if you've got no more funding, a lot of this is just words on a piece of paper and admirable aims. I mean, there's a fair criticism that we have had 12 years of Conservative government, and it's almost an indictment on the failings of 12 years of that government. But moving on from that, I think the other criticism that we're seeing coming out of it from some of the mayors as well in some of the papers is that actually, whilst people like Andy Street over in the West Midlands and then Andy Burnham up in the Northwest, they're two mayors who've done extremely well. But actually their argument is we need more powers. And what Michael Gove said today was we're going to have more of these directly elected mayors. But my concern, I think others have the concern that, one, they've got to have real powers. And also you've frankly got to get the calibre of people locally like Burnham and like Street.
The Eye also talks about no more funding to level up the UK. To be fair, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Simon Clarke, who spoke to us this afternoon, said that we invested an enormous amount, in fact, a record amount of the budget in the spending review last autumn, some £150 billion more of total departmental spending. This is the most any parliament this century. And all the White Paper is doing today is providing a framework for that money. So the no new money issue, as far as he's concerned, was dealt with last autumn. But I don't know how that sits with you, Andrew.
Well, I heard Michael Gove saying much the same too. The money was announced then. I think this is really ambitious and bold, and we should really welcome it because it's not about just 12 years of Tory neglect. Michael Gove would accept that. It's about 60 years of neglect of some of our northern and Midland towns. They've just been forgotten. There has been a definite shift towards giving more money to the southeast, more resources to the southeast. We have got some of the biggest regional disparities in income, educational achievement, life expectancy in this country than anywhere else in Europe. That didn't happen in the last 12 years. That's been going on since the Second World War. And it's about time a government tried to put a stop to it. And I think this is an ambitious attempt. We're going to see more directly elected mayors. Good, because I think they've been doing a pretty good job. And also Gove has changed a rule a bizarre rule he said he inherited, which means since 2015, £1.5 billion of regional aid has gone to the southeast and only 150 million to the north. He's ripping up these regulations so the money can start moving backwards. What he's got to be careful, though, politically is some people in what we used to call the blue wall will be thinking, is all the money, is everything going to go to the north and the Midlands? What about the southwest? There's poverty in some parts of the southwest, and there are some poor parts of the southeast too, and particularly in London. So we've got to remember that.
Yeah, no, you make a good point there. I just want to show you the Mac cartoon. I read it the wrong way around, actually, that North Surrey was going to call itself Lancashire, but I'm wrong, actually, which is the point you're making. North Surrey, formerly Lancashire, is part of the levelling up strategy. But as you said, we'll see which areas calls themselves where at the end of that. Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me now, Andrew Pearce and Anna Soubry. Welcome back to both of you. So, to Boris Johnson we go, Andrew. Front page of The Guardian, 3 more Tory MPs. Will there be more in the wings, do you think?
Potentially. What they need, really, what's happening, it's a trickle. I think 14 MPs have now declared themselves that they've submitted letters to the chairman of the 22 committee seeking a confidence debate. There's talk it could be as many as 17. We don't really know because they don't have to tell us. And I'd have to say, the Tory parliamentary party is one of the more duplicitous electorates you might meet in this country, frankly. But one of the people who's might be seen as a surprise is Gary Streeter. Now, he's been an MP since 1992. He's a very proud, staunch, very proud of his Christian faith. And he would be offended by the fact you could argue that the Prime Minister was a little economical with the truth about these parties when he said there were no parties and no rules and regulations were broken. Well, we know currently the police are investigating 12.
OK, and Anna, we've just got 1 minute left, I'm afraid. Well, you know, you've been there, you've got the T-shirt. Your thoughts?
No, I mean, Andrew's absolutely right. Gary Streeter really shocked me because he's a thoroughly sensible, really, does things when he really believes very strongly in them. He doesn't just send off a letter without a lot of careful thought, and that is deeply, deeply significant. But there's a hell of an operation being launched by the great Klingon Boris Johnson and his cronies to keep him in power. I don't know how long he's going to stay. I think it's scandalous, and I think it's deeply regrettable that Conservative MPs are saying so much in private, yet they haven't got the courage to come out, get rid of him, get somebody else, and get on when doing the work that should be done.